Welcome back to the program. No parking signs, justice, and anniversaries are all part of this week's Aorihwa's news briefs.
It was a chase that started in Mercy and ended here in Kahnawake just before 11 p.m. on Wednesday night at a local factory. This, according to investigator Warren White of the Kahnawake Peacekeepers.
This evening we received a call from the Kahnawake Police requesting assistance in possibly stopping a vehicle that was being pursued by the Kahnawake Police along with the Quebec Provincial Police. In fact, there was two vehicles that were being pursued. One of them stopped in Mercier where they pulled into a parking lot, and two of the individuals that were in the vehicle fled on foot. The other vehicle continued to evade police, not stopping, continued into Kahnawake and came onto our territory by the old Kahnawake Road. Our patrols had already managed to get to that location on the old Kahnawake Road, but as they got there, the vehicle that was being pursued got by the officers. Our patrols continued to take up the chase, and the vehicle turned into the parking lot at the location that is known as the old Robertson's garage. The individual that was inside the vehicle drove into the building and fled on foot. Our officers continued their pursuit on foot with the individual, not knowing who that person was. The person ran on the old Kahnawake Road heading into town on the eastbound direction. The officers exited their vehicle that were coming from the west side of the old Kahnawake Road and managed to subdue the individual on foot in the bush.
It's since been learned by Mohawk TV that Kahnawake were fleeing police because they were transporting cigarettes. However, the real issue that seems to stick is why were police forces allowed inside the territory and allowed to enter a private business? Officers
that were in direct pursuit of that vehicle continued to that location because they were now with the officers from the peacekeepers. They didn't know that the individual had fled the building. They just stayed at that location, and the officers continued their pursuit on foot. Once the individual was apprehended, he was brought back to that location. The pursuing officers that were in pursuit of the individual, the individual that was arrested was custody was turned over to that police force, and they left the scene.
Okay. Now some people would say, well, why are the outside police on our territory? How come they're allowed to come here? What would be your answer?
Well, like we've said before, and I think what's happened in our community, people think that if they get back into Kahnawake after they've committed infractions out of the territory, that this is going to become a haven for them. And I think it's quite the reverse, where if you commit an infraction off the reserve, stop. Why allow and endanger our community for something that you may have committed in another territory?
But workers associated with the local factory tell a very different tale. The following is an audio account taken from a KTA meeting. Mohawk TV has the exclusive details.
So we're inside the factory, and then when we walk in, there's at least minimum 14 French police officers, SQ and Kahnawake mixed. I don't know how many of each, but anyway, so they had their guns drawn, like I said, at least 14 of each. Get on the ground, stay on the ground, stuff like that. So we were on the ground, and they were keeping us there, and we're yelling, where's the peacekeepers? Where's the peacekeepers? There's none to be seen. And they're telling us, oh, they're here, they're here. Meanwhile, the night watchman, Patron, or Darren, was calling the peacekeepers from the phone at the factory, and they said, okay, they're on their way, they're on their way. 5 minutes passes by, there's still nobody there. How does that make sense? I left my house, I got there in 2 minutes, I live way down there. So another 5 minutes passes by, he calls again. Okay, they're on their way, they're on their way. Meanwhile, we're still on the floor with we're laying on the floor, they got their guns drawn on us still, they're not letting off, they're just holding us there like that. I was cuffed, still had their guns on me, and it took at least 10 minutes for the peacekeepers to show up. When they should have been there, they should have been the first people there.
The issue of outside police forces allowed to enter the territory has raised much concern over the years by local residents, especially since some situations have turned deadly. But Kahnawake peacekeepers say they have protocol.
Well, the same assistance that is given to us, we offer back in return. If the other police departments we're not asked as to why we're in pursuit of a person. Their object is to assist us, okay? And if they apprehend an individual, that individual is turned over into our custody and is brought back to our territory. And in the same fashion, for an individual that's committed an infraction that's not from that's committed off the territory and comes to our territory, if we in fact stop that individual is detained and turned over into the custody of the police force that was in fact chasing that individual.
But yet concerns over these types of situations getting out of hand remain. Once again, the following is audio taken from a KTA meeting.
What would have happened if them cops went in there armed and there was 6 guys inside the factory armed? I gotta ask, what would have happened? I could tell you what's going to happen. A big goddamn shootout.
And the community would have been in the
yeah. And now what? Before they smarten up and change their protocol, or at least, in the very least, follow protocol, does somebody have to get shot here? You know, running from the police. But that is not the issue here. The issue is we have a protocol here with our peacekeepers and the outside forces to prevent just what happened last night. And no, not one of them followed it. Nobody, not our peacekeepers, not them. This is the issue here. It's not an issue about them running away. It's who has jurisdiction here. You know, 8 cars can cruise right into our territory, go in somebody's factory, put everybody on the ground at gunpoint, keep them there for 10 minutes with nothing. That is the issue.
The KTA has learned of the situation and they did issue this statement. The Kahnawake Tobacco Association has and will continue to recognize that Kahnawake is not a safe haven for illegal activity. The incident, which occurred on the OCR on October 28, 2009, on or about 10:30 p.m., where Chateauguay and SQ police entered Kahnawake unescorted, was itself illegal under the 10 agreements. Chateauguay police were in pursuit of a van registered to a Kahnawake resident. When the van entered Kahnawake, no peacekeepers were present, and a total of 8 Chateauguay and SQ police office units entered Kahnawake unescorted. Then they entered a tobacco manufacturing facility and held 6 locals inside at gunpoint while handcuffed. The issue remains, who actually does have jurisdiction of policing in Kahnawake? Why was policing agreement protocol not followed? Why was a local male a quarter mile from the incident arrested and turned over to the Quebec law enforcement? Why did Quebec law enforcement allow pursuit to get to Kahnawake when it started 20 minutes away in Saint Martin? The KTA does not condone Quebec law enforcement agencies entering Mohawk territory of Kahnawake, and we must use all necessary measures available to avoid any type of violence in the future. Meantime, one suspect was arrested and is facing several charges, including evading police. For News Channel 4, Aorihwa, I'm Regan Jacobs-Stalk.